Time for a Bloomberg exclusive. For more, we're joined by Ksenia Yudaeva. She is the first deputy governor of the Central Bank of Russia, and she joins us from the Institute of International Finance conference in London today, which brings together the world's leading influencers. Ksenia, thank you very much for joining us for this exclusive interview. I want to start by asking you about the G7. It's taking place without Russia today. You know, we've heard a lot from, in particular, the White House about the effects, the consequences of the sanctions against Russia and the threat of more sanctions really hurting the Russian economy and the ruble. Nobody knows better, perhaps, than you about the real effects. Give us a sense of how the sanctions and the threat of more sanctions has affected capital flows, the ruble, and while we're at it, I guess, your policies.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So far, let me give you the perspective of the central bank. So far, the sanctions which have been in place, they had a limited effect, but it's not the sanctions themselves. That's the fear of sanction which produces a lot of our instability and uncertainty. We at the central bank, what we are trying to do, we are trying to decrease this uncertainty and to create an environment which returns trust to the currency, to the financial market. This is why we changed our policy in the beginning of March. We made our exchange rate regime slightly different. We sort of imposed the selling on the exchange rate movement. And we also increased our interest rate, both to fight inflation and to preserve financial stability. And we actually believe that this policy worked to some extent, because we see that right now ruble is much more stable and financial markets calm down quite a lot. And we think that with the measures which we have in our hands, we will be able to stabilize financial markets further if needed.
It's interesting because obviously we also have the ECB today, and you know, Mario Draghi has a very different set of problems, and everyone's of course expecting that he's going to cut rates while you're hiking rates. So you think that basically the hikes that you've had thus far have been effective in strengthening the ruble?
Well, we think that they've been effective in strengthening the ruble. Actually, Russian position is not very different from the position of other emerging markets. You know that last year many emerging market currencies depreciated. Ruble actually was not the leader of this depreciation. Ruble declined less than other currencies. And many emerging markets rose their rates already last year and at the very beginning of this year. So we were probably one of the last to come. So our behavior is not very different from the behavior of other emerging market central banks who face the difficulties of stabilizing their markets, facing Fed tapering and changes in the monetary policy of advanced market central banks.
I want to ask you about Crimea. We got the inflation number for all of Russia yesterday of 7.6% for the month of May. I know it's not going to be a huge factor, obviously, in influencing inflation, but clearly the bill for the annexation of Crimea, of joining up Crimea with Russia, it just keeps going up, and that means more spending, and that means more money in the economy, and presumably that means more higher inflation, right?
Well, not really. Crimea is just 2 million people. Russia is a country of 140 million people. So whatever the spendings are, this is a fairly small part of the Russian budget. And the effect of Crimea on the overall inflation is very limited. Well, of course, we do have this challenge of high and rising inflation for the moment, and it's a big concern for the central bank. And it's related related to two things. First of all, depreciation of the ruble and probably a bit higher pass-through from the exchange rate to the domestic prices than we expected. And secondly, some of the effects on the specific markets for consumer products. For example, some of the food prices are going up globally, so they're going up domestically, and it has an impact on inflation as well.
Talk to me about how you balance, I guess, the two things that you're looking to do, which is both stem inflation by strengthening the ruble so that you get less inflation because people are buying a lot of imported goods, and trying to foster growth, which, you know, obviously is not really happening right now in Russia. How do you balance those two priorities?
Okay, let me make clear one thing. The Central Bank of Russia is moving to inflation targeting. This means that we're going to use interest rates as our major policy tool. We are going slowly but continuously to a much more flexible exchange rate regime than we used to have. And this is our goal, our strategic goal, and we're going to continue along this goal. So we do not have any specific goals regarding the exchange rate, particularly any specific level of the exchange rate. We had to change our policy because we thought that there may be some financial stability threats, but that's it. As long as these financial stability threats will be over, we will go back to our strategy. So this is one thing. Now, as far as this inflation versus growth dilemma, it's actually a dilemma for many other emerging markets as well. Many other emerging markets face the same situation as us. They face very low growth rate, rising inflation, and actually very low unemployment rate. This is the challenge for Russia. We have both low growth rate and low unemployment rate, meaning we don't have a lot of slack in the economy. And it also means that all kind of structural changes are needed in order to bring back high growth rates to the economy. On the behalf of the Central Bank of Russia, we of course balance our policy. We forecast inflation. We are setting our interest rates in such a way as to not put very negative, significant pressure on growth. But we also think that confidence. Sorry,
we're running out of time. Thank you very much. We'd definitely like to continue the conversation. Unfortunately, we have to move on. Thank you so much. Ksenia Yudaeva, of course, first Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Russia. She's just joined us for that exclusive interview.